Welcome back to the channel. We're going to jump into this rebuild of our 2004 Grand Am GT, not because I'm excited to work on it, but because I forgot to film the intro. So here we go. We're going to pull the windshield out of it so we can get our dash fixed, and we can replace the windshield that has that head print in it from the accident. We'll start by pulling our trim panels off the side and the A-pillars. There's a couple screws in there. Just pull those out and we'll pry the trim piece off. Kind of stuck in there from the last guy that put a windshield in this thing, or maybe the factory even. It's a little rusty in there. We're gonna have to fix that. We'll head over to the other side and do the same thing. We'll pull the weather stripping off of our A-pillar molding, and we're just gonna set it off to the side. We're not gonna completely remove it because it is clipped into our quarter glasses. When that's out of the way, we can pull our 3 screws out of our trim panel here. These do separate a lot. Scott's Grand Am Emporium had some spares, but these were actually in pretty good shape. We'll toss them in the car and use those later. We'll pull the molding off the top of the windshield. This comes with our new glass, so we're just going to tear it out of there. And we can get our windshield knife in there, start cutting out our urethane. Since we had to change the windshield anyway, it made sense to pull the windshield and repair the dash. If we were not changing the windshield, I would just pull the whole dash assembly. There's actually a video I've done once before. I'll throw a link up above or in the description, and you can follow that on how to pull the dash out to repair it. But in this case, we're already doing the work. We can just get the windshield out of our way and repair it that way instead of taking the time to pull the dash out. So now we'll pull the molding off the bottom. It also comes with our new windshield. And now we can get to the urethane on the bottom of the windshield. So we'll cut that out of our way. I thought this was replaced once before because of the rust on the B pillar on the passenger side, but this is actually an OEM windshield. So that was the factory that had a little oopsie. We'll take care of it. We'll make it better than new. Now that we cut all the urethane out, we can pull our glass out of here. We're going to go carefully set it in the dumpster. Now we're going to blow out all the leftover debris. We're going to clean out the cowl screen, get all the dust and broken glass out of there. And then we'll clean off the dash between the 2 separated pieces. Any dust that might be in there, scratch off lottery tickets, bail bond receipts, restraining orders, whatever happens to fall into the dash there from the previous Grand Am owner. And before you get offended by any joke I might have made, just know I own one of these Grand Ams, so I'm allowed to say whatever I want about the owners. Now that everything's all cleaned up, it's time to apply our forbidden toothpaste. This is just windshield urethane. I needed to attach one of these a long time ago. Just a real quick job. It was just the corner that was peeling up. So I tried some windshield urethane and it seemed to work pretty well. So that's how I've repaired them ever since. And I've actually not had one come back yet. So that's how I do it from now on. Sometimes necessity is the mother of invention. So we're just going to apply a good coating in there, just between the 2 panels. Not trying to get the good housekeeping award. We don't care what it looks like. We just want that dash to stick down there. Now the tricky part, we're going to try to squish this all together without wearing this urethane, because it doesn't like to come off and gets everywhere. So we got some flat duckbill vice grips. We're just going to squeeze it together. That's, well, one of our only pairs. So we're going to take some paint sticks and we're going to keep clamping all along. We're going to use the paint sticks on the dash side. We don't want to leave imprints with our vice grips in the dash. So the paint stick kind of distributes the tension across the dash It'll leave some dents in there, but they will come out later. Whereas if we squeeze the end of it together without those paint sticks in there, we'll have a bunch of little notches in there that won't come out later. You got to keep adjusting our vice grips to get the tension right. Clipping it in all the way along. Move on to the next paint stick. And once we got one side done, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. This dash actually wasn't peeled back as bad as most of them are, so it's pretty easy to repair. Some of them peel back pretty far. This one was just starting. But usually when you fix them, they stop peeling. So it's good to get them as soon as you can. We got our urethane in there. We're going to keep clamping it down. The hood is off. It's actually being painted. Painting gnomes are working on it. So now we're just going to let this sit for about 24 hours, and we can pull all of our clamps off. And then about 48 hours after that, our dash should go back into its normal shape. We're actually going to heat it up a little bit. We're going to let the top piece stretch a little bit now that it's all clamped up. I'm just going to heat it all up. Not going to move anything. That'll actually help our urethane cure at the same time that it's allowing that top panel to stretch a little bit, hopefully to keep it from peeling back off. I don't know if this part is necessary, but it's easy to do, so we're going to do it. Worst case scenario, it does nothing. Best case scenario, it makes our repair last a little longer. So now our dash is drying. I ordered a pizza. Our painting gnome was done painting our hood, and the pizza girl showed up. If you guessed without a pizza, unfortunately, you are right once again. So she's going to help me put the hood on. We left the hinges on there when we took it off, so we just set it on there, put the bolts in the back of the hinges, and our hood's already aligned and ready to go. I normally would have painted the fenders at the same time I painted the hood to blend it, make sure everything matches. But I did have a buyer come along, and they decided that they were giving it to their 16-year-old kid, and they'd rather save a couple bucks for the blending time and just have us panel paint it, and whatever it looked like, it looked like. They figured, and I agreed, that with the 16-year-old driver, this might not be the last time the front end of this Grand Am gets painted. Which is one of the benefits when you buy my cars before I start working on them, because you can decide how you want them fixed. I normally would have painted everything and just charged more, but I'm fine with painting it, and if it doesn't match perfectly and the buyer is okay with it, I'm okay with it. I understood why they wanted it. It made perfect sense to me. Just isn't the way I would have normally finished it, but it worked out for them. So our hood's on, our urethane is cured. Time to pull all of our clamps off of there and try to get our paint sticks off that we glued on. Pull all the clamps off this side, and we'll pull our last paint stick off. We're just going to use a razor blade to cut the extra off. This is all covered up by the bottom of the windshield, so it doesn't show. That's why I wasn't really worried if the urethane did get on our paint stick. As long as it wasn't all over me. That stuff really is a pain to clean off. We'll cut the little extra off so we don't have globs that are up against the windshield. And that's what it looks like. There's a couple dents from our paint stick, but after a couple days in the hot sun, those will kind of relax and come out of there. You'll never know. Still have a broken defroster vent though. And we did take care of our rust on our passenger side A-pillar. Just cleaned it out of there with a wire wheel. Primed it and painted it real quick. Now we can throw our cowl screen in. This actually goes in before the windshield glass. So we'll set it up there. Throw our little push pins in. Flip in our washer hose. And wait for the glass guys to show up. Now we'll throw our headlights in. Snap all of our bulbs in. Plug our headlight in. And then we'll slide it up into our headlight mounting panel. We'll make sure we get all of the tabs in. A lot of people like to miss the bottom one when the headlight's shining up in the trees. Great for spotting squirrels. Not so good for seeing down the road. Put the headlight in on the passenger side. This one's going to need a little buffing. We'll have the detail gnome take care of that. Slide it into the headlight mounting panel. Now we'll push our little clips down. The one on the inside. And put our little baffle in. Make our ram air functional. We really need that extra 15 horsepower. We'll put our ram air duct in there. Clip it into the air box. Put our push pins in. And we'll put our little closeout panel on. Goes on before the bumper. Goes underneath the bumper. As you know, that's my pet peeve when people put it on top. So now we can slide the bumper over it. Make sure our lower air baffle is up above the bumper. Slide the cover on. Put our push pins across the top end. Now we'll put our push pins in the bottom end. Now we can put our 3 bolts in the side that hold the fender in. Torque them down to manufacturer specs. That's 4 electronic ugga-duggas. We'll put our little push pin in the sound deadening panel before we put our wheel liner in. And we got a little front piece of wheel liner here. We'll clip that in. Slide it up into place. We'll put our rear wheel liner in. It's front wheel liner. It's the rear portion of it. Screw it in. A couple push pins. And we put the front half on. Put a couple bolts in it. A couple push pins. A couple more screws in the bottom. Hold it to the bumper. And we're over to the passenger side to do the same thing. We only had the front portion out of this one, so we don't have to put the rear one in. Flip it in. Put our push pins in. A couple bolts. And we're still missing 1 push pin. Have to go over to Scott's Grand Am Emporium for that. We had 1 left, we'll throw it up at the top. And after our trip to the Scott's Grand Am Emporium, we had our push pin. Now we're going to throw some cavity wax in our frame rail. As you can see by the rusty color dripping out of there, I've already cavity waxed portions of it. We're going to get the inside of the rail now with the different style wax. I just went all around the seams with the other stuff. It's a little more runny. Gets in there where water would normally get and seals it out. This coats the inside nice and thick. It'll be the only portion of the Grand Am that's not rusted in 5 years. And now our windshield's installed, we can throw our wiper blades back on there. The arms and blades. These came from Scott's Grand Am Emporium because we didn't get wiper blades when we bought this thing. Apparently the wiper blades went wherever the alternator went, and the radio and door speakers. and everything else. We'll bolt down our wiper arms, put our little caps in there, snap those in, and we'll make sure our wipers and washers work. The battery's a little weak, but they work. We're good. We'll pull the two-sided tape off of our molding, and we'll line up the clip it into the fender. At the same time, we're going to line up all the holes on the front of it. You get one shot at this. Snap it all in there. Make sure our two-sided tape is stuck. And then we'll put our little push pins in the front of the molding. We're good. Now we'll put our factory radio back in, plug in the antenna, and plug in the wiring harness. Stuff it in there. There's 3 screws that hold it in, and we'll put our panel back over the top. Plug in our cigarette lighter. We'll plug in our traction control and hazard switch, and clip this piece in. Now we can throw our rear view mirror back up there. We'll plug it in so our dome light works. And we'll loosen up the screw. Since our old bracket was still attached to it. And we'll tighten our screw back up, and our mirror's installed. Now we'll change that defroster vent cover. Since we fixed the dash, we might as well replace this vent cover. And this will be the only Grand Am on the planet that has a dash that's not peeling and a defroster vent cover that's not broken. And we kind of forgot a piece of the old vent cover in there. We'll pop that out of there so our new one can clip in. Could be the rarest Grand Am in history. So we have a non-broken defroster vent cover and a good dash. Just like the factory did it. We'll put our molding back in our front bumper. Scott's Grand Am Emporium had some extras. Good thing, because you can't buy these anymore. Start in the center. Work your way to the outside, and the last few inches, slide underneath the back and then push in. If you start at the other side, you end up with a molding that's too long or too short when you get to the end. Don't ask me how I know. So now we're going to do the driver's side molding the same way. Start in the center, we'll peel the backing off, and work our way around. Make sure that if you drop that backing on the ground that you pick it up so you don't kill the shop sea turtles or dolphins or whatever gets caught in those things. When you get to the back edge, tuck it into the end of the bumper and push that last little part on there. Actually a pretty ingenious design, so if that molding shrinks, it shrinks from the back side, doesn't pull away from the front. If only they had thought so far ahead on the dash. So our Grand Am is all finished, and for those of you that wondered and wanted to know, I spent 10 hours on this entire build. Yes, the entire series, watch it all. That was one day, 10 hours. Actually a couple days. I had to wait for the paint to dry, which takes longer than me fixing the car. Now, how can I make any money rebuilding this Grand Am? Well, let's just say I only made $1,000. Only $1,000. Well, divided by 10 hours, that's $100 an hour. I'm okay with making $100 an hour. And that's if I only made $1,000 on this build. But when you pay next to nothing for the car, nothing for the parts, yeah, there's a little bit of room to make some money in there. So you don't have to fix Lamborghinis to make money. As a matter of fact, I invested less than $1,000 in this car. So even if I only made $1,000, I more than doubled my investment. You are not going to do that with a supercar. Not a single supercar you've watched on YouTube has had that kind of return, and it never will. So give me my boring cars. They're profitable. Now this is usually the part of the build series where I'm sitting in the car and we find out if the build really is done by playing everybody's favorite game. Unfortunately, I sold this car long before I could film that video, so I had to reach a compromise with the new owner. And now it's time to play everyone's favorite game. What's in my console? First, we got our Hater's Tears bottle. Of course, because I rebuilt a Grand Am and there's no money in rebuilding Grand Ams. But there is. So, yeah, we're going to fill this up. Let's see what else is in here. There's some toilet paper. This would be worth a fortune if it was 2020. We'll still hang on to it. Oh. We got some more toilet paper. The unlimited edition Federal Reserve toilet paper. Making it rain. Oh, still something down there. It's in there. Console's acceptably large. Looks like I have another trophy for my wall. Maybe I'll have to give this one away. So, stay tuned for that. That's all that's in there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.